Hi, Si here from Music Radar. Today I have got the Gamechanger Audio Motor Synth 2. I'm going to check out some of the cool things it can do. Most notably, the best things we like about this lovely, crazy, very esoteric synth. And a couple of things that we're not so keen about. The first thing we love about Motor Synth MkII is the fact that they've added loads of new stuff since MkI. And over the years, it's been refined, developed, and possibly the best part of MkII is going to be the inclusion of the digital oscillator here. So originally there was just the two voices, and what they've done is they've added another voice, and it's really, really useful. Adds so much more character to the synth. The cool things that they've introduced into the DCO are, well, we have pulse width, obviously. That is pretty much a requirement on all synths nowadays, according to the internet. And we've got wave folding, which is cool. So obviously we can't do a demo about Motor Synth without talking about these motors. I'm going to pause the spinning just for a sec so you can see a bit more in depth what they're doing. They look pretty cool. Essentially, these little patterns, these concentric patterns, you've got three rings on each disc, represents one of the waveforms. So we've got the square wave, saw wave, and the sine wave on each one. And then underneath each motor, there's another kind of sensor. It's like a little pickup. That's actually the M wave, which is another waveform. And so the light sensors will pick up the patterns. The motor will spin the wheel as fast as it needs to, and that's how you get your pitch. But also, there are other things you can do with that. Because it's a motor, there are inherent physical properties of a motor that you can use at your disposal within a synth. And pretty sure Gamechanger Audio have nailed it right here. So I'm going to turn it back on. Let's launch into this preset. Actually, it's quite an apt preset. It's called Pit Stop. So it sounds like this. This is our envelope section right here. These 6 dials, 3 per voice. You'll notice we have accelerator and brake here, which, well, best thing to do is just show you how it works. So each voice has the ability, it's kind of like pitch bend, and you can select a target and a destination in pitch. So, and design it on this little grid here. We've got the plus and minus. So I'm on the accelerator. So that drops down the beginning point. Okay, hit the Alt button, I can change the destination as well, so it can sound a lot different. Another thing we're loving about Mark II of Motor Synth is the modulation. There are 3 modulators in here, each one with 2 slots and freely assignable to anywhere in the synth, pretty much. So let's check it out. Unsleep. Okay. So I'm on, what preset have I got on? Just number 1, film pad. Sounds like this. There we go. So here's the mod setup screen. We're on mod 1 at the moment, right here. We can see that in slot A, we've got the ARP gate length is selected to be modulated. And we can use the sort of rate and subdivision knob here to adjust the rates and such. We've got the shape as well, mod envelopes. We can change the envelopes here. We've got a ton of choices, just like the amp envelope. So yeah, lots to check out. At the moment, there is just this one, I believe, and we've got cutoff as well, cross mod. So we've got a few things we can tweak on mod 2, and there's nothing assigned in mod 3. So let's add some stuff in mod 3. Easily assignable things, so we hit the assign button. We can select which one we want, so we can, in this screen, we can select which one by tweaking the knobs or the switches, the toggle switch. So I want to assign slot A on mod 3. But what to assign it to? I'm going to go with drift and detune, so all I need to do is just tweak that, and that's assigned. We can then, on the next page, we can adjust the rates or carry on through, and then that's pretty much done. There we go. That's now assigned. We can see moving away there in the background. If we want to change the rates again, obviously we can do that here. We don't have to decide that at the beginning. So we can have a nice slow build. That, and we can adjust the amounts. So on the minus, we've got it down to on the drift, or we can, on the plus, it's over to the detune. So I'm going to go to the drift, full 100%. Sounds like this. There we go. Let's get the ARP on. Like I said, that first mod was the ARP gate length, so okay, so one thing that Motor Synth Mark II has got in spades is flexible routing. For instance, the voices, 1, 2, and the DCO are all kind of intertwined, and you can link them along the signal chain or detach them and have them running freely. We can plug in an audio source, have it as an envelope follower. You can select a vocoder. There's lots of kind of input and signal routing that we can play with. You can also route in how each voice is played. So if we go into the keys and poly menu, we have our scales set up for the keypad. There's a little section here. If we cycle over to the next page, we can select what's effectively controlling that particular voice. So at the moment, all 3 voices are going to be controlled by everything that's available. So that's the 8 keys here, MIDI, courtesy of this controller here, or the sequencer, or the ARP. So turn any of those things on, it all works. So turn on the ARP. if I want to, I can have different parts controlling different things and so on. So we can easily have the MIDI controller only controlling, say, voice 1, or the sequencer only on voice 2, and so on. So we can mess stuff up. Let's have MIDI coming in on V1. So the sequencer is controlling just the voice 1, and then on the MIDI keyboard here, we've got the ARP with voice 2 and the DCO. So some of the drawbacks then. Well, you've probably heard all about Motor Synth, and you cannot deny that the motors themselves do create quite the din. We've got a microphone actually just out of shot there. That's picking this up. Now this is quite a low volume for these motors. It can get crazy depending on the patch you have dialed in. I'm going to actually change it to... Now, Richard Devine's well known for his excellent sound design skills. Of course, he's lent them very well here. Okay, I'm not playing a note. Listen to that. That's what... Okay, so the actual patch sounds like this. Now, obviously, on a recording, you can, you're just taking the output. That's fine, but in a kind of performative sense, that is very distracting. And if you're on your own, you kind of really need headphones. Playing out light in speakers is just a bit too much. Another thing we're not entirely enamored by with Motor Synth 2 is the lack of effects. For a product of this price range, the assumption is that it should be dripping in digital signal processing at least, if some analog options aren't viable. So there's no chorus, there's no modulation of that sort of type, there's no reverb or delay. Of course, what it does have in spades is saturation and drive. You can really filth up your tones with the drive and the cross mod. And that side of it's great, but yeah, maybe it would have been nice to have some effects on it as well. However, to soften the blow of a lack of effects with Motor Synth, Gamechanger Audio have actually included some sends and returns for voices 1 and 2, which is a nice addition. So while we love all these new features that Gamechanger Audio have introduced to Motor Synth, such as the DCO, which is interwoven within the two voices here, it feels a bit cramped in the interface stakes. So a lot of the controls aren't as intuitive as we would have liked. For instance, the amp envelopes, to access each one, it's a click of the amp envelope rotary. So that's voice 1, voice 2. Now, if you want to control other parts of this menu here, you have to go to this rotary, and you cycle through by clicking. And again, for the curves, you use this rotary. Now, to cycle through each individual stage, you have to then press the same rotary again. So already we're kind of a bit all over the place with what we're controlling. To further compound the difficulty, well, at least I've had to navigate some of the controls, because the DCO has been sort of implemented later, some of the controls here feel a bit clunky as well. So you have to hit this button to get to the DCO amp envelope. Now, while you'd think by pressing that button again would cycle through the stages, it doesn't, because you have to then use amp envelope 1 to cycle through. Because if you press that one, amp envelope 2, it then switches over to voice 2's amp envelope. So that sort of thing feels a bit annoying. Further to that, there's also, you know, split controls where, say, if you're going to the presets here, we can cycle through, and it's quite intuitive at that point. But sometimes I find I want to use these rotaries because they're closer to that screen, and they do work. And because they do work, you then tend to think, well, if I press that rotary, that will select it. No, it's not quite. It does other things, so I'll exit that. Little things like that, minor gripes, shall we say. One cool little feature we like in Motor Synth is the startup sound. Now that's when you either turn it on or you awaken it from its sleep function. The motors will start up in a different fashion depending on what setting you have it on. So they've got electric, gas, and diesel. You're thinking, what on earth does that sound like? Well, I will show you right now. Let's change the preset to something that's quite basic. I think an organ is quite a basic kind of tone. This is what it sounds like. Not much in the way of modulation is, that's quite good. Right, so let's sleep you. Okay, the handbrake is on. All right, now if I awaken you from your slumber and then hit some chords, that's quite cool. That's diesel. Let's change it. Let's change it to gas. What does gas sound like on awakening? Okay, park is on. Let's go. It's the little things. And thirdly, let's try electric. What does electric sound like? Now, I quite like the diesel, so I'm going back to that. Cool, so that's a little overview of what we like about this very crazy synth. I'd love to know what you think about it, actually. So do hit the comments section, tell us what you think. And if you're not doing so already, don't forget to like and subscribe. And we'll see you soon for some more gear demos and reviews and whatnot. So yeah, cheers, see you soon, bye.